Oh, hello, everybody, all the boys and girls, and everybody else out there in Toyland or wherever land you might hail from. Welcome to the Mutant Academy. This is
Yes.
where Sal and I instruct you in all the ways of not being a mutant. That's Professor X's Academy. In the way of watching mutants do things on in movies and TV shows, specifically not TV shows yet, mostly movies. Um, and of course, we've been building to this moment. We had a nice little grace period of movies that everybody liked and enjoyed, and now we're here to talk about the beginning of the mixed bag.
Yes.
That
We
is,
need the thing that we needed to save the franchise from, because every movie after this
yes,
is another attempt. The conversation didn't go, "Oh my God, what are they going to do for the next one?" It's going to be, "How are they going to fix this?"
yeah,
And that
yeah.
was, and that conversation never really stopped.
It never did. It never did. And there was a bright spot where it's like, oh man, I think they're getting it. And what's funny is for some reason, the plot line we're going to dive into in this movie, for some reason, this is the albatross. Man, this and fucking Venom, man. Two, I would argue, good storylines, classic storylines, iconic storylines that the movies can't crack for inexplicable reasons.
It's true. Yeah, they can't square that circle. I don't know what it is, whether it's they can't see the forest of the trees, they can't get beyond their own ego.
Oof,
But like
we'll get into that. I was
it's
doing a
so
little bit of
obvious.
BTS. I will say, there's.
Oh, I'm gonna need that context, baby, because
Well,
it's
but here's
gonna
the
be.
problem. Sorry, not to jump ahead, everybody, but I hate to inform you that it's kind of fucking boring. Like, it's not
It is
like,
boring, but not
yeah,
even like in a fun way. Like it's not like they got Aaron Sorkin to make X-Men 3, and it's just
yeah,
like the dialogue snap crackles and pops, but there isn't going to be any fighting until the last third of the movie.
yeah.
No,
It's not even not to minimize obviously the damage somebody like Bryan Singer did outside of the movies, but also like risking people's lives. But that's
yeah,
like, oh my god, this is more like just fucking too many dicks in
oof,
the soup. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know, like you said, they just couldn't get out of each other's way.
yeah.
But speaking of, and listen, I think this is just going to be a running trend for all these X movies. This is just going to be, we're not going to be talking about Brett Ratner
No,
and the shitbird he is.
please.
That's for another show. We're just going to be talking about this movie on its own. Um, Weird that for some reason the X movies can't, like, which problematic filmmaker are we
It's going to be
which
involved in
sex
this,
pest do we want to hire to make our X-Men movie?
right? So weird that there's a franchise about inclusion, about acceptance, about being safe and protected, and yeah, let's
Yep.
give them to these people who are the antithesis of that.
Let's get into that. So, again, so that's welcome to the show. If you want to listen to the audio version as a podcast, you can do that over at patreon.com/only stupid answers. If you want more in Sal and I do a whole other show talking about Spider-Man stuff. And we just finished the Spider-Man animated series.
Yeah, someone might say the most influential animated series of all time.
Yeah, actually, because there's a moment when you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, bits. And I was like, actually, he's not. This has influenced not
Like
just
how?
Spider-Man movies, but superhero movies
Yeah, yeah.
to a
Listen,
shocking degree.
if you think that the alien symbiote that
Mhm.
Spider-Man wore that became Venom made him more angry
Yeah,
or more powerful,
yeah.
it only started in the animated series.
In the animated series, and truthfully, you can draw a direct line of, if you say, and who wouldn't say this, but the modern superhero boom begins with, in earnest, with Blade, and then with the Spider-Man 1, Sam Raimi Spider-Man 1.
Yeah.
You have that animated series to thank for a lot of the, like, fucking Whistler, right? Like in Blade
Right.
comes from Spider-Man animated series. Anyway, point is, Spider-Verse is where Sal and I talk about the Spider-Man stuff, similar to how we do it over here. That's over at patreon.com/only stupid answers. If you want us to read your comment, well, what is it called, Sal? Super chat? Is that
Super
what we're
chats, that's
Super
right.
chat?
Yeah.
That helps keep the lights on the show, that and being a patron. So we appreciate that. If you want us to read your comment, do that over at the super chat. But listen, let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. This is Mutant Academy episode 3, X-Men: The Last Stand, which came out in 2006, which is what, like a year, 2 years before Iron Man and The Dark
Yeah.
Knight?
I think like 2 years before. So it's like this movie's launch is long gone, but still consumed by the
Yeah,
superhero genre. This is like the biggest. This might be the last gasp of the like mid period superhero movie, because there was the joke period where it was like, if you had a big two property, it was probably going to be dog shit.
yeah,
Your options were to make a movie out of like an unknown property like a Mask or a Tank Girl, which
yeah,
by the way also, puh. But
yeah,
like, didn't do great. Mask did fine, but like, Tank Girl and
yeah.
like and Company, The Phantom, The Shadow,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah, exactly. It was a weird time where it's either the indiest of indie comics,
Or
or for
Ghost
some
World.
reason, yeah, or for some reason, pulp heroes. We
Yes.
saw Batman and we're like, oh, the Phantom, and it's like those are. I mean,
That's not the same thing.
I guess I sort of see where you're coming from if you're 80, but like,
Well, and that's the thing, right? And all the people who are running those studios are like, "Oh my god, an excuse
yeah,
to have men riding horses with blondes on them?" Yes.
yeah. And by the way, I will defend the Phantom. I'm a fan of the Phantom. I've
I
not seen the
mean,
Shadow, but I don't think I could defend
the
that one. Anyway,
Shadow is not great.
yeah. Uh, but yeah, so you're right. There's that weird or like Steel or like
Steel,
Catwoman, like where it's like, do
right?
you even understand?
Like what this
Which is
is?
which is weird because I think we're wow, oh my god, we're like unpacking. I feel like we're unpacking
The
the
superhero genre. Yeah.
superhero genre in a broader context, because I kind of feel like now we're back in this renaissance of like, do you even understand the properties you have? Like, it's
Right.
this weird, like, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah. Oh,
like,
you
well,
look no
I'm not gonna
further.
get into the Craven and the Hunters of it all, Craven the Hunters of it all, but it's like, what in your mind, what is happening?
We can go even further, like, because Craven the Hunter is like a mixed bag, because it's a Sony property that's made
Yeah.
to like capitalize on owning the Spider-Man franchise. But look over at like what Sony did with Bloodshot, where
Mhm.
it's like unknown superhero. It's like they were like, let's go back to 1996 and
Yeah.
make a movie based on nothing, or based on something that nobody knows about. And even then, they were like, let's not even do
Yeah.
the thing.
Well,
Like,
okay, and everybody buckle up. This is what Sal and I do. We're in a little like tangent mode
yeah, I
right off the
apologize.
bat. Right off the bat.
Yes.
But I do think it pertains. We'll figure out how later, but I do think it
Yeah.
pertains.
To X-Men 3.
I think here's what I'm starting to think, because people have been, obviously Flash numbers are down, elemental numbers are down, which is a bummer because I actually really liked Elemental, Pixar's Elemental.
Yeah.
And I think here's part of where we went wrong. One is, and this is not for nothing, somewhere in the pandemic, social conduct, we forgot what it is. Like, I don't know
It's
about
gone.
going to the theaters. I go to professional screenings of
Yes.
industry people,
Yeah.
and cell phones are out, and
It's
people are like,
horrible.
kicking around
It
and
might be
talking to
worse, actually. Like,
what happened in the past 3 years that we forgot? Like, hey, I'm in a room of other people who maybe desire to see the movie. I should respect. Anyway, that's not what this show's about. But
no.
I think more importantly, I think one of the issues is studios went from the studio system has always been, as in everything in America, make most money, line go
Yeah.
up, right?
Uh-huh. Mhm.
I think where we started going wrong is, I feel like on some level the equation was, if we make movies people want to see, that will make us money. And we want it we don't care about the art of it per se, but we want to make the money, so we'll make shit people want to see.
Yeah.
That changed to with like the dude bro Silicon Valley types, and basically every industry in America becoming a bank functionally, and
Yeah.
all that stuff. It became more like, I want a pipeline of, I put Star Wars on the thing, it makes I don't want to think about creative, I don't want to think about the product, I don't want to think about, I want a factory.
Yeah.
I want to say Star Wars money, Star Wars money, Star Wars
Exactly.
money. And
In
it's
fact,
like, that's
if
not
I
how
hear anything
anything.
about creativity, like it'll distract me and annoy me. Like, no,
Yeah.
I need like I heard
This
something
isn't
amazing yesterday.
McDonald's. Like, it's a
Yeah.
different industry, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Right, yeah, but like, yeah, McDonald's, it's like if you get like an artisanal like employee, they're gonna get fired, because
Yeah.
it's like, dude, your job is not to make or craft the best burger. Your
Yeah.
job is to make the burger that the last 20 people ate.
And it's
Make that.
and the need is, I just need to shove something down my gullet real quick without having to think about it too hard. And McDonald's fills that need. That's not
Yes.
what like movies are or like shows are.
Well,
Like
or what food should be.
very true. Very, very true. Very true. But so I think what we're like, and again, so I think that all feeds back into it feels like and maybe what I'm actually touching on is the fact that however people feel about the current slate of Marvel movies,
Yeah.
or even the previous slate, the previous three phases, Kevin Feige
Yeah.
knew the properties and cared enough to do it right, whatever that
Yeah.
means. People do it right.
Right.
And because I did I don't know if you're on Letterboxd, Sal, but a couple
Yeah.
people got me on Letterboxd where you're rating stuff, and I was like, after I saw Flash, I was like, okay, I'm going to do my
Oh yeah, I didn't rate Flash.
DC movie rankings. And looking at it, it was like, and I posted on Twitter or whatever, and I was like, man, I don't think there's any way to look at this slate and even though there's some movies in it that I really like, it's a failure. It is if you look at it as a whole, it's the DCEU. It's a fucking failure. And so maybe it's not that they ever figured it out. It's that Kevin Feige sort of figured it out for a while, and that was such the bulk of the industry that there was a sense of, oh, studios get it now, but they never did.
Right. No. Well, that's the thing, is that studios never get it. The studio, like, if you need one guiding star here, is that studios will never get it. It's that they inadvertently hired or inherited a producer, an executive who did.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, they are only one person and they can only dictate the line so long. It's why I'm like convinced at this point that because we're never hearing any other names, right? Feige doesn't have like, hey, this is Johnny and he is an amazing creator. And when I die or quit, Johnny's next in line.
Not
like, there's
grooming
no
James Gunn to be my replacement.
Exactly.
He's gonna have to go with the other guy for that.
No, and like, so I feel like when Feige's gone, Marvel is dead. And when I say Marvel, I mean Marvel Studios, not Marvel Comics. And when I say dead, I mean dead creatively, dead with any semblance of like quality control. Like, you will not right now, I would argue, like, is there any? But there is at least some measure of oversight.
Yeah,
I think that
and
with
in
him
fact,
gone,
I think touching on the same problem is that I feel like and we've talked about this on Spider-Versity and stuff. I mean, I think Kevin Feige needs to do what Marvel does, where it's like, you're the editor of this pipe, you're the Spider-Man guy, you're the X-Men guy, you're the Avengers guy. He needs to delegate, because where it feels like, and there's no way for us to know this, but what it feels like is everything going through Feige worked when you're turning out 2 to 3 movies a year.
Exactly.
When you're doing like 4 movies and 4 shows, it's like the dude spread too thin. You need to delegate.
Well, that's why I'm like, just get back to basics. Like, just make 2. Because the other thing
honestly,
is, like,
truthfully, I really do think I just do a couple of, because people have been talking about superhero fatigue, and I think the genre is so ubiquitous that it's never going to go away.
No,
but and I think they also need to focus more on this idea of going, it's the city's in danger now, the planet's in danger now, the universe is in danger now, the multiverse is in danger now, the multiverse of and it's like, because again, truthfully, and I know a lot of people aren't there, that's one of the reasons I'm really looking forward to Blue Beetle, because it looks like a kid gets a magic scarab and fights back. It's like, great, done. Like, I don't need any more than that, honestly.
Yeah,
that's what I wanted from Flash. I wanted him to face Captain Cold and the Rogues, and I'm good.
Yeah, we didn't see a single rogue. We had to make up one. Honestly, with Spider-Man, like that new trilogy that's coming out, I was like, go inward, young buck. Like, make it all about, like, dude, maybe there's a crime boss. Like, maybe Kingpin might make some money. Oh no, but don't make it like sky lasers and multiple Spider-Men. Like, No Way Home was the wrong lesson to learn, and I hope that they haven't. Like, I hope they're not like, obviously Spider-Verse and No Way Home says the bigger the Spider-Man story, the better returned it is.
Yeah.
I hope that's not the lesson they learn. I don't think we're going to be in that reality where they didn't learn that lesson, but go inward, man. Like, I mean, people love that kind of stuff. I mean, look at how funny, how low stakes the original superhero movies are,
Yeah.
And then how, when they got bloated and big, is when it got problematic, like in X-Men 3 The Last Stand, where it was like, and I think X-Men 3 The Last Stand also represents the kind of problem we're having now, where they're like, they made 2 successful X-Men movies, and they were like, produce product, make thing, get it out. Doesn't, like, they got Brett Ratner, the most creatively bankrupt, like, body they could get in a
Mhm.
director's chair, right? They were just like,
Yeah.
execute vision, not even vision, execute
Yeah.
product.
Yes.
And he did. Like he made the movie that, like, because there was no creative force behind it, the studio could go this. Oh, and my son is a big X-Men fan. He says to put Angel in the movie. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's how it feels. It feels like this. Check the boxes, and everyone's doing it. Like, you could feel like Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart and even poor Hugh Jackman just going like, really?
I guess this is what we're doing. So Sal, I don't know if you have a solution for this, but apparently, even though the video's up, people are commenting. StreamYard thinks I'm a private video. So
Interesting.
yeah, so
I'm
I'm not.
watching it easily. Like
Yeah, I'm
I'm
watching it
seeing
easily
it.
too, but
Yeah.
I don't see the comments. The point is, the comment I might not be able to bring it up on the
Oh.
screen. I might not be able to bring it up on the screen, but Ray Farr sent us a super chat. Sal, woo! I personally despise X3. It's my least favorite X movie ever. Haven't seen New Mutants, LOL. The only thing I like is the opening Angel scene. Well, listen,
That's not a bad scene.
that is honestly as good a segue as any we're gonna
I
get.
agree.
So off our tangents, I apologize, everybody. Or do I? Maybe you love it. So
Oh,
this is
really quick. Just open up your StreamYard and just see if it's still set to private at the bottom.
Let me. Oh, wait. Where? What settings?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. It just originally, I said, hold on. Maybe let's do it this way, kids. Let's do it this way. Let's see what happens here.
For YouTube Studio.
Yeah. We're gonna go
Yeah,
over
go to
here.
content.
this is fun for the kid. Like, let's
I know.
figure out the logistics of what's it
Right.
So listen, while we're getting into that, yeah,
Yes.
YouTube doesn't support comments on private videos. I set it up as private because I set it up on Monday, everybody, and I didn't
Exactly.
I didn't whatever, but I guess there's a cookie in there that says it's still private on StreamYard, whatever.
Boo. Sorry.
Doesn't matter. The point is, I will read your super chat comments. They just might pop up on the screen. So this is directed by Brett Ratner, as we already mentioned, written by Simon Kinberg and Zach Penn. The human government develops a cure for mutations, and Jean Grey becomes a darker, uncontrollable persona called the Phoenix, who allies with Magneto, causing escalation into an all-out battle for the X-Men. Oh, those sound like two interesting plot lines that I don't know if they go together.
They are not two great tastes that taste great together, honestly.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel overall. Not to I'm not gonna give whole thoughts on this movie, but it didn't feel like the movie was overcrowded with plot.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to watch a whole movie about Jean Grey giving into her darker half, nor would I want to watch a whole movie about the government developing a mutant cure. So
Yeah.
but I wouldn't have picked the Phoenix to supplement the mutant cure story.
One, and I will say, interestingly enough, with two full iconic story arcs, one being, of course, the Phoenix Saga, the other one being, what is it called, Gifted, and then Joss Whedon's
Gifted, yeah.
Astonishing X-Men. This movie's a brisk hour and 44 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's the best thing about it. Is
true, except that this is one of the few cases where it's like maybe flesh out a plot line, or a character, maybe you've got to use 15. Listen, man,
you got
movies have gotten way too fucking long. So this is not me arguing that I needed a 3-hour X-Men movie.
Hell no.
But maybe listen, 2 hours, 10 minutes. Maybe put in another 30 minutes of something in there, just to, because characters are being written out right and left, done. Which on paper, listen, man, you got to thin the herd. I get it.
Totally.
But maybe give it a little bit of breathing room. Is my only suggestion.
Absolutely.
So on Rotten Tomatoes, this has a 57% with an audience of 61%. Yeah, man.
Generous 57%.
X-Men: The Last Stand provides plenty of mutant action for fans of the franchise, even if it does so at the expense of its predecessor's deeper character moments.
Damn right. Good summary.
So here we go. Here's the speaking of summaries. Here's a summary of the movie. This is the
please.
segment we like to call Way of X. We right off the bat, Sal, I felt like I was being transported to the future because we begin with digital de-aging, and guess what? It hasn't improved that much in almost 20 years.
Yeah, it's like when it's done badly today, it looks as good as it did then, which back then looked real bad. By the way, no one liked it back then.
Listen. Man, we need to cut that. Okay, this allows me for a rant on digital de-aging. Fucking, we need to take away from studios the multiverse and digital de-aging until they can learn how to behave. All right, you need to
they're you know what, you take your toys away from a kid that's misusing their toys, right?
Where until you learn to pay your writers and give a shit about story, you don't get to play with digital de-aging and the multiverse. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
So, as somebody, I was able to watch the new Indiana Jones film early, and it is much better than Crystal Skull. Low bar to clear, but truthfully, better end to the franchise than that. To the best.
Good. Okay.
Still the Last Crusade, but should have ended there. But whatever. But it begins with this opening digital de-aging bit with Indy, and it's not that it's bad, but it's always distracting. It immediately takes you out of the movie.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest with you, it's fucking embarrassing that we keep shoving these 80-year-olds back in the costumes they wore 40 years ago. Let them be old. Let them fucking Michael Keaton, fucking Harrison Ford, fucking Bill Murray, fucking Joe Biden. Let them retire, okay? let's get some Gen X's in there. Let's get some millennials in there.
A couple of younger folk. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, it's rough because you don't want to see your favorite action star be still wearing the pajamas they wore when they were
silly.
Virile.
It's silly. And here also another thing, we know at this point 20 years ago they looked like James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. So what
exactly? No, it's just completely that completely skews off the timeline.
Yeah. We know that they looked exactly like young James McAvoy and young Michael Fassbender up until a frame before X-Men 1.
Yes, and then they aged bad.
Immediately. This whole opening sequence is Professor X and Magneto. Conceptually, I actually kind of like it. They go to visit a young Jean Grey, who's very sassy, by the way. Young Jean Grey, and very powerful. That's what we learn.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, around the same time in this 20-year earlier time frame, we see a young Miles Warren. This is actually fucking this is where we know we're in trouble, right? For me, this is your warning sign, because an actually pretty unsettling scene of young Warren Worthington III's Warren Worthington III.
Yeah, Warren Worthington III. Yeah,
don't have to say that name out loud too often. Is trying to cut off his burgeoning angel wings.
Yeah,
and the movie has the audacity to be like, "This is the moment we're going to zoom into those wings so we can get a sick CG DNA title sequence." And it's like, what? Do you not know the tone of the scene you just did?
Yeah, it's rough.
It's fucking bleak, man.
It's a good scene. It's a really good scene. It's really sad, and you're like, ugh.
And also, dude, Warren, you got out easy, man. Fucking angel wing, dude. You're beautiful.
No.
Especially in that Ben Foster has settled into his. He's actually a really talented character actor, but he has never looked better than he does in this. He's physically better than he does in this movie. And he gets angel wings. Fucking calm down, dude.
Exactly. Like, come on.
You don't have devil horns and shit. You've got cool ass angel wings that let you fly in your hands.
And you can fly. They're not even vestigial. Like, you look dope. Yeah,
you're not fucking Beak, okay?
You're not Beak.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So we get our required early aughts CG title sequence. Then we jump to not the present, but the not too distant future. Unless you forget that the X-Men movies take place in the not too distant future.
Yes.
So we get this danger room sequence, and listen, Sal, this is where we're going to get into the fact that seeing this danger room sequence, I was like, wait a second. Is this movie not as bad as I remember? And I told Sal before we went on air, and that's not a credit to this movie. It's more an indictment of where superhero movies are at now. That it's like, wait a second, are these actual actors on an actual set? Hold on.
Right?
Do I like this actually?
Yeah, the scene of Wolverine lighting a cigar on a burning on a burning car is like, it's really fun.
Yeah, and he gets to take out a Sentinel's head. Fine, sure.
Except like everything in it is lame. You know, like it's fun to see everybody doing their thing, especially because it's supposed to be like a misdirect. You're like, oh, is it finally Days of Future Past? Oh my god! And then it's like, nah, it's Danger Room. Yeah. And you're thinking like, this is what you avoided doing for 2 movies because it was, quote, too expensive. It's not. It's 2.5 minutes long, and it's nowhere near as expensive as any other scene you did in the last 2 movies. I don't understand. But the scene where like Wolverine's like, all right, that's enough, and he just like, let's do the fastball special, which is awesome.
Yes.
But
I have to imagine the only reason Colossus is in this movie because he's not really.
there's no reason for him to be in it, and I think they recast him from the last one, which who cares?
I think it's Cudmore in both of them.
Oh, okay, all right, cool.
Obviously, he got recast for Deadpool.
Oh yeah. But the scene where the sequence in which Aurora is like, Logan, don't do it. Like, first of all pretense of an accent have been long
gone. Yeah,
forgotten.
which honestly, good.
But also like Halle Berry is sleepwalking through this movie. Like this is the beginning of like the Halle Berry Catwoman. Like people are like, does she really deserve an Oscar for this? Like this is like this movie does not do her any favors. Like
which is weird because it's also the most the character's been able to.
Well, and that's what's so frustrating. Like you get this feeling, and I remember seeing this movie and being like, so the main characters of this movie are Hugh Jackman and Halle Berry because everybody loves Wolverine and Halle Berry won an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's it?
Yeah.
And because they don't naturally, like, they're not the pairing for this movie franchise. Like, they're not the faces of this franchise. I mean, Wolverine, his claws are, but like,
but truthfully, like, if Marvel out there, you know what I mean? If you're like Wolverine and Storm are
makes sense like, now.
That's a good call.
Mm-hmm. But Halle Berry, you could tell she's like, yeah, I'm here to collect a check. Like, I gotta wear this crap. Like everyone is too good for this movie, and you can tell like they're writing in scenes for actors who are like, I'm done.
Yeah,
where you could feel like the moment where they go cut, and then just like they're gone. They're like, I got to make sure the check cleared today.
After this danger room sequence, we reintroduce to Scott, who I've got to be honest with you, shows more personality in this one sequence than he did in 2 previous movies.
No, he's never this interesting.
Yeah, he's super pissy and bummed about the death of Jean, and it's like, and it's another bummer in this movie. It's like, where's this Scott been? Don't worry, he won't be here long.
He's got to go make Superman Returns.
More on that later. Yeah. So we're also introduced to Beast, who is a cabinet secretary. He's the secretary of Mutant Affairs. We get Bill Duke, Predator fame as Trask. That doesn't mean anything. It's just when Bill Duke shows up, I'm like, hey,
Mac.
So Mystique has been imprisoned. They call her Raven, and she's like, I won't answer to my slave name.
Like
Woof.
That was dope. That's one of those moments where you're like, you feel good. You feel good about that? Like you shot that. You're like, yeah, it's pretty fun, right? And then they're like, and then anyone of color in that scene just goes,
You sure about that? You sure that's where you want to go? As far as the backstory of these mutants, I don't think any of them have ever been slaves.
Nope.
Anyway, so we get Moira McTaggart, not played by Elizabeth Hurley, despite what I initially thought, played by Olivia Williams. She's brought up Professor X's teaching class. He brings her up of talking about mutant ethics, but it's really to lay a seed for later. Like, oh, this guy over here is in a catatonic state. Would it be moral if I died later in the movie and I put my brain in his brain? We'll never know. Anyway, moving on. So Beast tells the crew about the cure. And we get an announcement. They turn on the news. We get an announcement at Worthington Labs, which is at Alcatraz for reasons.
Because that's where the last scene's gonna be.
Yeah,
we have to have a fun location that can be easily that. No one ever knows what it looks like off the top of their heads. Right? Like you can't place what Alcatraz looks like.
Listen,
does it look like a huge courtyard where a big fight could take place?
Yeah,
maybe.
It sure doesn't. It sure doesn't. I will say. Alcatraz is a lovely little tourist destination. My wife and I went there when we were in San Francisco. We had a blast.
Was it cool? Because I've always wanted to see it because of a movie called The Rock.
Yeah, which is also, it's not like that either.
Damn it!
It's just weird. This prison that's taken on like kind of a mythic proportions that I don't think think we used for like a decade and we haven't used since.
Yeah, no, it's just this thing. Like it's cool because it's on an island, and it's got a great name.
Yeah. It's supposedly haunted. You get it. You guys get it.
Exactly.
So, Magneto, there's a big AA meeting of mutants, basically, at an old abandoned church, and Magneto shows up. And this is functionally, for people that read the comics, these are functionally the Morlocks. They're not the cool.
Are they the Morlocks? Interesting, because I just thought it was stupid.
Yeah.
I was looking at these folk like, this is just so lame. Like
Yeah.
everyone's here. We're like, I have a generic power that you'll never see, and I'm here now. And also, we have tattoos because tattoos make you part of a society in movies. And so here we go.
What's weird is okay. So what's weird is a lot of them have like omega symbols.
Yeah.
And one of them is even Ken Lung plays Kid Omega,
Mm.
but even though he has these weird spiky porcupine powers,
Oh,
there's
that's
also
the that's Porcupine Boy because
there's
that's what I
Porcupine
called
Boy.
him
Yes,
since that movie came out.
yes, but technically he's supposed to be Kid Omega, which is
Ah.
the kid. If you read the comics, the kid with the pink hair.
Yeah, incorrect.
Yeah,
It's
incorrect.
just you didn't get that.
And then Daniel Ramirez, who plays Speed, person who has speed powers and also can sense mutants wherever they are on the planet.
Okay.
Is Callisto, which is why I thought like, okay, this is their Morlocks.
Right. That makes perfect sense to me now. Like, yeah,
Sure.
that's
And then May
and she fights
Malenkov
Storm.
plays Psylocke, who is present, who is the hey,
Who is
purple
it?
hair. I got a little thing which Psylocke had in the early aughts, little eye tattoo.
Yeah.
It's confusing. Nobody knows what when I read that, like, oh, Brett Ratner wasn't familiar with the comics, so he just trusted the writers that they would stay
Shocking.
faithful. And I was like, yeah, okay, man. Well, the writers failed you. The writers,
Yeah, yeah, your lack of interest in this movie failed you. It's just
yeah.
I just picture Brett Ratner in this movie as Gus Van Sant in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where he's just sitting back and he's just counting money and he's like, Jesus Christ, I said I was busy.
Yeah.
So action then, or what?
Or what? So this is also the scene where we introduce the idea of class level of mutant, and whenever we do this, it makes me think of like fucking Dragon Ball Z with the little thing like, oh shit,
He's over
you're a class 5.
See, I always think of it like trading cards, where it's like,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah,
gosh,
yeah.
his intelligence is a 5.
Oh my god, I fucking hate that shit.
That was so stupid, and it ruins X-Men. Like, because the reason why people liked these movies, the first two, is because despite the fact that they are like high flying and silly, is that it was grounded.
Yeah.
Don't forget the opening sequence of this franchise is in Auschwitz.
Yes.
But like when you have a character show up and they have an Omega symbol on their lips,
Yeah.
and they say, what's your, like, oh god, when they're like when they're ragging on Magneto and Pyro goes, do you know who you're talking to? And he goes, and he flicks his little quills. He goes, do you?
Yeah.
I laughed audibly in the theater because it's like, that's like somebody, you know what I mean? Like, that's like Eddie Deason being like, I'll kick your ass.
Yeah.
Dude, know your place.
Yeah.
But like that sequence is only remembered because of the Mark moment.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
every other moment is forgotten about how laughably bad this sequence is. But yeah, then she's like, if you are a mutant and you're a class 5 or 10 or whatever
class,
then where's your dumbass tattoo? And he's like,
I've got my mark, and
I've got a
needle
mark.
will ever touch my skin again.
Solid line, solid delivery, solid moment. It also
it only works because Ian McKellen.
Absolutely.
Because it's one of those, if man, the Auschwitz stuff, it's so tricky because I feel like it works again because of the gravity Ian McKellen brings to it, and the sincerity and the seriousness of that opening scene. But you run the risk of it becoming just another piece of backstory, and it's like that. I mean, that's one of the worst human tragedy. It's tough. It's the same thing.
Right. You feel like it's kind of exploitative.
and truthfully, it's the same thing with slavery. It's just obviously media is meant to reckon with these things, but and it's the same time. Anytime you do, like, let's say a parody of like President Trump, the inherent, like, you inherently start like if a comedian you like is doing a good parody of Trump, you're inherently humanizing this person in a way that makes them more likable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a tricky, I think it's just one of those, it's just a little tricky balancing act with this shit.
Yeah.
That I don't like. If Brett Ratner had directed X-Men 1, we would have gotten that Auschwitz scene, and then the camera would have zoomed into Magneto's eye, and here's our Jean scene. It's like, no,
it would have been really dumb.
Stop. It would have been Auschwitz, man. Fucking calm down.
Yeah, no, it would have been very dumb. It would have been, it would have been Rush Hour 3.
Yeah, but the scope of human tragedy here is unimaginable, man. Calm down.
Yeah, but I was hoping that like that moment made all of the Morlocks or whoever or the mutants really just go, oh, I kind of feel like an asshole
I
now.
kind of feel like, wait, and you let your sidekick use slave name? You're cool with her doing that?
Okay, seems like everyone's kind of a hypocrite in some way in this
Yeah, I
universe, but
will
okay.
say one thing I've liked rewatching these 3 movies, and we'll get into it more, is I actually, and I think it's almost accidental nuance,
Mhm.
but the nuance with Magneto about how much of a fucking hypocrite he is.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
This movie really holds a whole magnifying glass to his utter, and
yeah,
he is an opportunist. He's a hypocrite. He is just like he's selectively moral.
yeah,
He is a dickhead, and it's
and it,
great. And I think that
it's
Ian
great.
McKellen knows it.
Yeah, if anybody knows it, Ian McKellen knows it. If
Certainly, Brett Ratner
anybody's
did not know that.
Yeah. If anybody's clued into it, it's fucking Ian McKellen. And I
Yeah.
think what it's great, it's just one of those things that it's like you went through a horrific tragedy that nobody should go through,
Yep.
but you're still an asshole. Like you're
Right.
still
Yeah,
like
but you are still a dick.
you're still a dick, man. And a bunch of other people went through the same thing and aren't genocidal madmen. So I don't know
Right.
what
He's
to
like,
tell
yeah,
you,
that's
dude.
because they didn't get powers of a god. That's why. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
So we are introduced to Dr. Kavita Rayo, wasted,
Yep.
played by the fantastic. Oh man, I'm gonna pronounce this wrong. I don't ever have to say it out loud. Shorey Agdashlu. She's in The Expanse. She's wonderful. She's such an incredible actress. Wasted here. Um,
Like
she
everyone.
goes Hank the Cure Mutant. I don't have this character's name. I just wrote down the Cure Mutant.
Yes, the Cure Mutant. Yeah, they had an X-Men name. I don't remember what it was.
And it's weird. It's one of those. There's that scene where like Beast holds his hand out and becomes not Beast, and it's one of those like, you know what? You're right. If you had somebody that could remove the X gene, it probably would do that, but it also looks silly and makes this seem silly.
Well, and also if you know anything about X-Men, you're like, I mean, you made yourself blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in this movie, it's like, oh, obviously he's blue. Like he
Yeah.
woke up one day and he was blue. But
Like
yeah,
if Wolverine held his hand up to this kid, would his claws fall out? Like what is the
right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just one of those things where we needed Beast in the movie to visually demonstrate the extent of the powers, and also we needed a character who was like a government stooge, I guess. I don't know. Kelsey Grammer inspired casting. That was one of those like, what? Does anybody have an old Wizard magazine to figure out who we should cast as Beast?
Yes.
Okay, great. And he is, and it's like he's almost too old to be it. But I love the idea that like, oh no, he was an X-Men back in the day. Like there was a more Black Ops team of X-Men.
Yeah.
And and there was, now that we have like First Class and so forth. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
and we
cool.
get a little bit more into all that stuff, but yeah, and I will say, I actually think the Cure is a really solid sci-fi concept.
Yes.
About if you have these abilities, what is the morality? Because this isn't like skin pigmentation, like with Rogue, it's like this dramatically impacts her life. It's almost it's closer to, and I'm going to try and approach this with the nuance I think it deserves. If I don't do it well, I apologize. But it's almost like if you had like a cure for like what's the word I'm looking for? Being neurodivergent, like something like autism.
Yes.
Like if you could cure autism, it's like, is that like is that
right.
like it's tricky. It's a trick. I would imagine it's tricky because a lot of people with neurodivergent behavior, like we stigmatize them, but that's just kind of the way they are. Is that a problem? It does make it harder to deal with society, but does that mean something's wrong with them? Not necessarily. It's tricky morally.
Exactly.
And it's a bummer that like Brett Ratner's the one navigating us through what could be a really compelling sci-fi concept.
Absolutely. And they try with Rogue, where it's like, obviously if there's one X-Man that we sympathize with that wasn't introduced to 10 minutes ago, that we can use as a like character arc for this movie, it is Rogue. The funny thing is how almost real it is with Rogue, where she's like when they're all talking about it in the Xavier's mansion. And how everyone is delivering their lines the flattest they've ever delivered. Like I've never seen worse acting from Patrick Stewart, Hugh Jackman, or Halle Berry in my life than that scene, where she's like trying to be like kind of like this like defiant. She's like, no, there's nothing wrong with us, and it's like she's doing it in such a way where you're like, methinks the protest too much. Like, but I'm like, but why would she want to rid herself of her powers? Like she's not, you know what I mean? Like I don't know what she's doing. Like is she's doing it in such a weird way where I'm like, do you believe that? Are you angry about it? Like what's happening? And then Rogue comes in and she's like, I don't want to be Rogue anymore. And they're all like, yeah, okay. And then she leaves and is, spoilers, not Rogue anymore. She's like, I'm not Rogue anymore.
I'm out. She's out. We're let's different strokes for different folks. I don't want this. Like, yeah, okay, I guess so.
Right, because I'm making True Blood soon and I want to get out of this.
And I think a more nuanced, if more nuanced movie, more not, because I think what you would dive into there, in these, I wouldn't be surprised if it never even crossed Bryan Singer or Brett Ratner's mind. Storm's a black woman, so she might have a very personal stake in people telling her she's wrong for being the way she is. And I think there's something there. But you'd have to talk to Halle Berry about that. You'd have to like, okay, what are we
what are we going to do about this? How are you going to play this?
Like, exactly. And that's not the movie we're in. So
no, that's very
fair. Jean reveals Scott gets a I hear mind sounds, and he goes back to where this is a lot of people go to Jean because I hear mind sounds. I can't remember if Scott's one of them. He goes to where Jean died.
He goes to Alkali Lake.
And we get the divergent stuff. Like there's little nuggets in this movie because I actually think this scene with Jean and Scott works. She's back. He's happy to see her. She's like, let me see your eyes, and he's like,
I'll kill you.
Talking about? And she's like, no, I can control it. And she sees his eyes, and then she kills him. It's like, what are we doing?
That's really rough.
More interesting. Why are we getting rid of him now?
Well, and I didn't know about like casting and other movies and Bryan Singer's exit. So like for me, I was like, cool. I've read a lot of comic books, and I've seen a lot of movies. And if you make a comic book movie like this in 2006 or whatever, then you have some kind of like, if you've seen these movies, you're meta watching a little bit, but not like in that way. You're kind of like you have a lot of. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Scott is her ace in the hole. She's taking him off the board. He will triumphantly return at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And lead the X-Men. But no, it's just what you see is what you get in this movie.
Yeah,
and it's like
didn't even cross my mind, and that would have been fucking on the. I like the idea of Storm taking the lead, except the movie never really does anything with it.
Exactly.
So the idea of like Cyclops coming back at the end, like, don't worry, Wolverine, I got this. It's like, wow,
exactly.
Cool. Oh my god.
Yeah. Nope. But I was like, oh well, because for me, I'm like, well, this movie cost like $300 million. There's no way they're gonna do something this boneheaded.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, the lesson that I learned is like, it's a miracle when they don't screw it up.
Yes, exactly. We didn't with Spider-Man's 1 and 2 and X-Men's 1 and 2. We did not know how good Blade's 1 and 2. We did not know how good we had it.
Right. Although I will admit, Blade 3, Blade Trinity is wholly watchable.
Yeah. Okay.
If you are just like, I want to watch a stupid ass movie.
Yeah. My co-host Roxy Stryer just watched it, and she was like, "Wait, did you know Ryan Reynolds?" She's like, "Everybody's in that movie. Did you know Ryan Reynolds is in that movie?" Like,
Patton Oswalt's in that movie.
Yeah. You didn't know Ryan Reynolds tried very hard to get a superhero franchise before Deadpool.
Yeah, he did, and I don't blame him. I get it.
Yeah. Draliseth says in the super chat, best X-Men movie on paper, less in practice. I get what you're saying. I do not know that I agree, but I do get what you're saying.
I don't agree that it's best on paper, but I do get everything. If you wrote down the pitch for this movie, I'd be like, yes. Like, okay, get Angel in there. Yes. Like, get Beast in there. Yes. Like, Mutant Cure. Yes. Phoenix. Awesome. Rework it, though. Make it a sky god. But like, a lot of these things work on paper.
Oh, man, it's a bummer. Are we missing anybody? We could have gotten a scene with Jean, Iceman, Beast, Angel.
Oh my god, and Cyclops, and just been like
Cyclops, and we could have
the original 5. We don't do that.
Feige would have done it.
Technically, the original 5 are in this movie.
It's as good as we're gonna get. Okay, so eventually, Storm and Wolverine arrive to find Jean. They take her back to the fucking. Institute, whatever.
Xavier School.
The Xavier Institute. Professor X drops a metric ton of expositional bullshit to introduce Phoenix, which in this movie is a split personality. Sal, question for you.
That sucks. Yeah.
Because we did this Ultimate Comics, X-Men Evolution, this movie. We really want, and I get the instinct, the idea of saying like, dude, it's in fucking Save the Cat. I can't remember the author's book.
Oh, yes.
But basically, anybody that's ever taken a screenwriting class, you've probably been asked to read the book Save the Cat. There's which people it's meant to be like a guide of ways to write, and people treat it like these are the rules.
These are the 10 commandments of writing scripts.
Because again, studios want a product they can put out, not art. So anyway, and there's a whole chapter in it how like, Oh, the flaw in Spider-Man 1. If you can't tell by my tone, I'm not a huge fan of Save the Cat. The flaw in Spider-Man 1 is that Green Goblin's ability is too many different. You choose the one thing, and it should have been the spider powers or the Green Goblin powers, but not both. And my issue with that, I understand it, but I think that's why every fucking superhero movie has the villains have the same powers as the heroes. But anyway.
That sucks. Oh no, we could trace it back to one terrible book.
So I think that I understand the instinct of like, especially at this early stage of where like this stuff is just getting mainstream acceptance. Like we can't do the fucking Shi'ar and aliens. We got mutants, and it is not a huge leap to say Phoenix is also a mutant thing,
right?
But I gotta ask you, Sal.
Yeah,
mutant thing, alien thing. What do you want the Phoenix? What thoughts on Phoenix? How do you want?
I always want it to be an alien. I always want it to be a space god. Like that's and you know how we know it works because children were watching their soap operas.
Yes.
And they watched like a 47-part saga.
Yeah.
And they bought it hook, line, and sinker, and it only added to the drama. It only made the characters more robust and fun. Like introducing a alien love interest in the form of like a Black Widow alien woman with a crazy hairdress from Professor X. All that, the M-Cron crystal, the Gladiator, all that stuff is so silly and insane, and it works so effing well. And it's like, and it worked as a 22-minute cartoon show. I know that Brett Ratner would never been able to do it, and I know that Bryan Singer would never have wanted to do it. But if they ever introduce the Phoenix today, going forward, it had. If you don't do the Space God, you have failed as a studio.
Well, and also, and we'll get into this more later, but also you just like the alien costume, I'm still bummed that Spider-Man had a big intergalactic Avengers team up and he didn't walk away from it with an alien costume.
That was the most frustrating you could possibly imagine, right? Like that he doesn't like, wouldn't it? Okay. Just I don't want to spend too much time like this. And I do apologize when this happens in our types of shows, but wouldn't it have been awesome? Because no one would have asked any question. No one would have blinked an eye.
Yeah.
If Spider-Man in the big climactic sequence of Endgame, when all the portals are opening up and Star-Lord comes out, and it's like that's the team, the B team comes through the door or the portal, and everybody appears, and the last shot is Spider-Man swinging through.
Yeah.
If he had swung through the portal wearing the symbiote.
Yeah.
And we could have receded off of his head to reveal Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Like the audience would have been losing their minds.
Yeah.
Like,
and he could have even introduced instead of the Iron Spider suit, he gets the alien suit on the alien
he
ship.
had the Iron Spider. He had the Iron Spider suit.
Yeah.
He's on Titan. The suit found him, and we can explain it later. But for right now, he got it on that alien planet. End of story. Because the reality is, they did that crap in X2 X-Men United. When we saw the Firebird, there was no explanation. There was no attempt at an explanation. And the filmmakers were relying on the audience that didn't get it to turn to their nerd friend and go, what the hell am I looking at?
Yeah. What is
Same thing could have happened in Endgame.
Same thing with Thanos. Like, who's this purple guy?
Who's this purple guy? Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no genuine introduction to Thanos except for in Guardians, right? Like, but if Spider-Man had shown out in a comic book accurate black costume that, like, when he needed to reveal his face, slithered off of him like it's alive.
Yeah.
The audience would have freaked out.
Yeah.
And anyone in the audience who's seeing Endgame is confused about that. They'd go, what's that? Like, that's the alien costume. He must have gotten it on the alien planet. He got an alien costume on an alien planet. Okay.
We might have gotten a better Far From Home. Anyway.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and we can do it now, and we should do it. So I'm Team Sal. I think Alien Phoenix. So
Alien Phoenix, please. Will you set up this cosmos? Like, it's a big, beautiful, rich, colorful, cosmic world we've created in the MCU.
Yeah.
We must have the X-Men stuff. I want to see Brood. I want to see Gladiator. I want to see the Shi'ar. I want to see Badoon. I want to see.
We haven't fucking done it. This Brood stuff like that. Anyway,
we get the Corsair, please.
Yeah, we get Phoenix, and she's she's a gene split personality. Is what we learn. Which, by the way, man, I don't like this trope. It's just a way for actors to do some of the hammiest, like, oh, where am I? Oh, now I'm evil. Fucking get it out of here, man.
It's horrible. And Famke Janssen doesn't even do it. Like, she is relying entirely on like makeup to make her to make it work. And then when she wakes up, you don't even believe it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just very hollow.
Yeah, I feel like now we would have gotten to a stage where this would have been different, but it's like this should have been 2 movies. You should have done your Cure movie that builds to, sorry, spoilers if you haven't seen last Man, that ends with, we'll get in this in a second, the death of Professor X. then part 2 is Dark Phoenix. We lay the seeds for all the Phoenix stuff. Jean's back. We lay all the seeds for it. But this is the Cure movie. And then next movie, Dark Phoenix movie.
Dude, Cure movie, she's Phoenix and it's helping people. Like, it's good. And then it becomes Dark Phoenix.
And then we gotta team up with the original core 5 members.
Yes.
And then they have to team up to stop her. Anyway, whatever. So we meet adult Angel, played by Ben Foster, who's an actor I really like. And he refuses to take the Cure because, of course, if it does, his powers rule. They're cool.
Yeah. Because he can fly and he looks like an angel.
Yeah, he literally looks like an angel and he can fly. Why the fuck would you get rid of that?
Dude can fly and he's gonna get laid for days. You kidding me?
Yeah, listen, man. Even if I looked like Nightcrawler, I wouldn't get rid of that shit. I was like, listen, there's gonna be somebody that's into this, all right?
Right?
And I can teleport.
And I can teleport anywhere I want.
Fuck you. I'm not Rogue. I'm not Beak. I'm not Glob. I'm keeping my fucking powers.
100%. Yeah.
So Magneto takes out the convoy carrying Mystique. The reason we're given is that the idea of like, we're not going to make the mistakes of the past. Her prison's going to keep moving. But my dudes, it's still made of metal. My fucking guys. Ray Farr mentions, how about the credits ending? Cure don't even work. We're not even there, Ray Farr. We're not even
but
there
we will
yet.
get there. We will get
We're
there.
not even there. Magneto takes out it's a cool sequence. It's just the logistics don't make any fucking sense. Why is the
completely
whatever? Especially when we establish that somehow in this universe we're able to make entirely guns that work entirely made out of plastic somehow.
You know what that is? I buy that so much because that's one of those things where it's like, you know, the government, captains of industry, they're always like, nope, I'm sorry, you can't have this thing that we've promised for years. It's just not possible. And then suddenly we need it like tomorrow, and they're like, oh, here it is.
Oh, sorry. I know we invented electric cars in the 70s, but we make too much money off of gas.
Yeah, so we're just not, like if there was like a virus that ate petroleum or something, you know, it's like, oh, suddenly all the oil companies have electric cars. We all know how they work, and we're sorry.
We don't need to get into that. Like, wait, on this one hand, we've invented electric, and then this is the 70s. We've invented electric cars. On this other hand, we have reports that show all this fossil fuels we're burning are hurting the environment. Sorry, everybody, nothing we can do. I don't know what to tell you, man.
I got another recourse. I'm sorry, because we'd have to switch gears a little bit.
Oof, no, thank you.
I'd never do that.
Line might go down, and if line goes down, what are we even doing?
Yeah,
line must go up.
Line goes up every time.
Even once the Earth is a exhaust-filled hellscape, maybe lines still go up, so things still good. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh God, if you told one of these fuckers, like, if you wiped out all of humanity, line go up, they'd be like, oh, where are the nukes?
Guess we're gonna have to do it. Yeah,
we're gonna have to do it. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so anyway, Magneto takes out the convoy carrying Mystique because the whole thing's made of metal. And then Mystique earlier threatens the one blackguard, and then she kills the one blackguard, which only stood out to me because of the slave name line. I was like, all right, everybody.
Like, what are we doing here, movie?
What's happening?
So, also, like, Mystique has that line where she says, like, Homo sapien. Yeah. And that's earlier in the movie. I'm sorry. But I was like, that's like the most acting she does in this whole movie. Is that one?
It's weird. Like, I will say, this is like, oh, Mystique actually gets to like say lines and be what I do. I do think they do Mystique dirty in this movie because
they really do.
We are introduced to Magneto's releases some other guards. This is a way to fill out the Brotherhood with characters that it's like cool that they're there, but we don't do anything with them. One of them looks like ass. That one being Juggernaut. He looks like ass. I like the actor.
Bullet Tooth Tony.
Yeah. Like I feel like, and it's frustrating too. Vinnie Jones. It's frustrating too because they're like, well, you know, in the comics, they're like half brothers, and so Patrick Stewart's British, so we thought it'd be cool if maybe Kane Marco was like, kind of a Cockney tough guy. Oh, because they're brothers and thing. Oh no,
and he's a mutant.
Why would you even ask that?
yeah, and we can't, because that would be silly if he had his if his armor was magic. So let's make it a mutant power that he wears.
Reversing my stance on the Phoenix. I actually am kind of okay if Juggernaut's a mutant.
I in this world, it makes perfect sense. It's a shame, and I hate it.
Yeah.
But like, I totally get it.
I'm not super. I know the broad strokes of Juggernaut's origin. Does he find what is it, the Kirac crystal, whatever it's called?
He finds the crystal of Sidorak, and he goes
Krakora's
inside of him, and he
crystal.
becomes a human Juggernaut. Yeah,
Does
no,
he do that because he's jealous that his half brother's immune? Because that's an angle. That's a
I
thing.
think he's jealous of his brother. His brother always got the accolades. Like his brother was like the favorite brother, and so he was like he does do it. He does it more or less to spite his brother, but not because he knows his brother's more powerful than he is.
Oh, maybe you could do something here where it's like not only can we cure mutancy, but also this is probably too much. We could also give mutant abilities.
Oh,
and that's how we get Juggernaut. Whatever. Anyway, that's not the movie we got. I'm not going to imagine another movie for y'all. Sorry. So, but here's who he frees. He frees multiple man and Juggernaut.
Multiple man.
Sorry,
who looks like Dane Cook or something. It's weird.
It looked like who's the Family Guy?
Seth MacFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane. For a second, I was like, no, it's not. So this is it. He's filling out his ranks. This movie really is, in some ways, it's similar to Spider-Man 3. It reminds me a lot of this is basically like early stages of what superhero movies are going to become. It's like, hey, look, they're here. What? Okay, so what are you going to do with them?
Nothing.
They're here. We did the thing. They're here. Okay.
X-Men 2 did that too, where they were like, well, X-Men 1. X-Men's one of those franchises where they're like, there's so effing many of them.
Yes.
This movie has the third Kitty Pryde.
Yes. Yep.
Last Kitty Pryde.
Last, and arguably we haven't gotten there yet, but obviously, like watching this again, I'm like, what? Elliot Page as Kitty Pryde. What obvious, perfect casting. Such a good, especially this 2006. Perfect.
Yep. Completely. Yeah. Yeah, although I really liked the model of the first Kitty Pryde.
Yeah.
But she doesn't even. She says, "Bye, Professor." Like, I don't even know who she is.
Exactly.
But she looked great.
But yeah, so we get we introduce those. Then Mystique gets hit by the Cure gun.
Oh no!
And she becomes human. And then Magneto immediately is like, "Sorry, bitch, you're not one of us." And heads out.
Yeah. I think they gave the line to the wrong character because he says, "You saved me," and then he's like, "Sorry," but I wish that she had said, "I saved you," and he's like, "Sorry."
Yeah,
but yeah, and I think isn't that scene or is it later where he says, "She used to be so beautiful"?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's later.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Yeah. And I thought that there's elements here. Like, I think that at first when I saw the gun, I'm like, a Cure gun. But then the movie starts to almost listen, you said it was a choice, but then you turn it into a weapon. It's like, that's actually a pretty good argument.
Yeah. And it almost like poetry, it rhymes. Like, if you bring it back from the first movie with the gun sequence, which is one of the best.
What a good sequence.
Yeah.
Oh, those first two movies are pretty good. But question though, if they had this, why didn't you do that immediately? One of these guys. God damn it, Sal! I forgot how Juggernaut gets taken out in this movie. I did not remember until it happened. I'm like, are you?
Oh yeah.
Kidding me? Anyway, on paper, at least, you've got a guy that once he gets running, nothing can stop him. You don't immediately hit that guy with the Cure. If you've got a on, you're not like, sorry, dude. Boop, boop.
Yeah. No, he's got a helmet made in bedrock or something.
That we let him keep on in his cell.
Right? Yeah.
Stupid. Fucking stupid. Okay. So, back at the lab, Jean is about to bone Logan. She's trying to get real hot and heavy with him. And then she does that multiple personality shit. Oh no, where am I? And she begs Logan to kill her. Professor X and Magneto return to Jean's home. She runs off and they go to follow her, and Professor X is following her to get her back. Magneto's following her to get there. How did Magneto know? Because Callisto, apparently, we don't even fucking need Cerebro. Callisto can sense mutants.
That's right.
All over the goddamn planet.
And she's fast enough to get to them, which is a problem later at the end of the movie. But let's not even bother.
Let's not even bother getting ahead of ourselves. Mm-hmm. So this leads to a big fight in Jean's house that is interesting. Could be compelling on paper, but it's a Brett Ratner movie, and so it
sucks.
Yeah, it's at best fine.
Oh, well, can I also mention, like, Professor X is like kind of a dick in this movie, like,
and what's
the last two he's supposed to be like kind of sympathetic, and and then in this one he's just like when Wolverine is like the only person who's like, hey man, what you did was kind of messed up, I think, and he's like, I don't have to explain myself, least of all to you. And I'm like, least of all, like because Professor X, like, every person has the potential to be like their best self. He's like, except for you animalistic murderer.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, where'd that come from? Like,
I think it's tough too because we've had 2 movies where Professor X is Patrick Stewart. And for anybody that grew up watching TNG, what that means is he is good, like absolute the embodiment of good.
Yes.
Like the moral character, right judgment, like he's going to make the right call.
Yeah.
And suddenly we're like morally compromised. Like we turned the morally compromised dial up to like not 11, but you know what I mean? Like suddenly it's like, wait, who is this guy?
Yeah, exactly. There's something else about that.
Because what Sal and I glossed over it, but basically what Sal's mentioning is that Jean always had this thing in her. Charles blocks it off, which starts to tie into the idea of like choice. And did Jean have a choice to have this happen? And it ties into the cure. And again, maybe if the movie had another 20 to 30 minutes to like
get that
some of these things, maybe we could have ramped up to realizing Professor X is a little bit more compromised, ramped up to like some of this stuff with Jean. Like we could have like justified some of this stuff more.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, she's full on Phoenix. This leads to this fight in her house, and she ends up killing Professor X, who his last act is to look at Wolverine and smile very creepily, like, why are you smiling at me?
Like, don't you worry about it, buddy. It's all gonna be okay. Like, what? It is?
Yeah.
What,
I think we're shooting for an Obi-Wan, like, I'll be more powerful dead than when I was alive. But it just comes off as like, wow, what's happening?
Yeah, well, especially because he doesn't want to die.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's weird.
Also worth mentioning that Patrick Stewart's Professor X does not have a great track record with psychic redheads. Between this and Multiverse of Madness, he should avoid them.
God, yeah. The other thing that I wanted to mention was the fact that like they don't know what to do with Professor X, and so in every movie they think of some way in Act 2 to get rid of him.
Yes.
And so
because
I love the first
so powerful. He can literally freeze people with his mind.
They were like, we made him too much of a problem. So in every movie, he needs to go away. So the first one, Cerebro poisons his mind. The second one, he's captured and has a thing on his head. And then in the third one, let's just fucking kill him.
Yeah. Let's just get him off the fucking board. Storm gives a eulogy for Professor X. And I don't know about you, Sal. I was like, well, is this the end of the movie? Or this feels like the end of the movie. This feels like the way these movies end.
Yeah.
Here is a voiceover that describes the things we learned, the losses we had. We're only halfway through, though, everybody. Hold on.
But we're only halfway through the movie.
So in the globe, everything, all across America, things are escalating. Tensions between mutants and humans rise. Soldiers are given the plastic cure weapons. Wolverine infiltrates Magneto's forces in the Fox Forest. If you've watched the X-Men movie, you've seen this forest. You know this forest well.
If you're thinking you're going crazy, like, no, there's no way it's the same forest. It is.
Yeah. So you have your choice. Do you want the Fox Forest or do you want the volume? The Mandalorian's the volume. I choose the forest because it's real.
It's actually there. Yeah, that's true.
Actually there. So Magneto. Just no kayfabe at all with Magneto. He's giving his big speech to his forces, and he's like, "Yes, we have our weapon too." And he looks at Jean, and it's like, "Fucking at least pretend, my guy."
Right, that she's a person and that you weren't just using her the whole time.
Oh my god. So he finds Wolverine. He says the line, "I know the smell of your adamantium from a mile away." Wait, he can smell it?
Oh, you can smell it, huh? Okay, that's
it's
new.
Sense thing. It's a smell thing. All right.
Okay.
Bummed. Sal, do you feel the same? Bummed that we didn't get Magneto ripping out Wolverine's adamantium.
I mean, I would have. Let me tell you this. I expected it 100%.
Especially with the trail. Do you remember back in the day with the trailers, and they had this scene in the trailers? Like, oh shit, man, we're gonna get fatal. He's gonna fatal attraction Wolverine.
Yeah. But it's like this is the last one. We're gonna do that and leave Wolverine just naked and adamantium-less? That sucks.
Oh, but here's the thing, though. Like, I think it would have been a great setup for the Wolverine spinoff. He's
Well, they
lost his
keep trying to
claws,
get
we
rid
got
of
all-
it, right?
Yeah.
We said X-Men Origins Wolverine, where he has bone claws for the majority of the movie, and then we have the Wolverine, where we get rid of his adamantium claws and get back to the bone claws.
Yeah.
And then in Days of Future Past, they just go, "You're actually more convenient if you have adamantium claws. Here you go."
Yeah.
We put them back on.
They're back, everybody. So yeah, but he just throws them through the woods real hard. That'll teach him.
Yeah.
Man, fuck! It would have been a cool moment, dude.
I know.
Just like if he was like in a better movie that again it cares about this stuff would have been like Magneto been like, "Bitch, I'm tired of your shit," and just rips it out, and then we could, like Wolverine's off the table for the third act. Then he gets the triumphant comeback to take out Jean. Him and Cyclops have to kiss to take out Jean. It's all there, guys.
Dude, he rips out the Wolverine thing. He's like, maybe he even gets more bestial like he does in the comic books, which I hated, but works in this movie.
I'll tell you, Sal, as a kid in the 90s, I grabbed all those when he had the blue bandana over his head. I bought all that shit, man.
I was like,
all of it.
For me, I was like, when is he going to get back to basics? Because this is horrible. But he's in the. But he stays in the.
To say, I'm just saying, I bought all of it.
Absolutely.
He was making out with Elektra for some reason. I don't fucking know.
That was a very small flash in the pan, so much so that they're like, no, in the future they have a kid. But yeah,
like great, cool.
But like he gets taken in by wolves, and like he's like running with the wolves, and he's more like you're like, has he gone completely savage? And then like Cyclops, the resurrected Cyclops, the Cyclops that never died, comes and gets him.
Because by the way, everybody, they play very they never say they find his glasses.
Yep.
And they never say
we never see his
Cyclops
body.
is dead.
Right? But like we have Cyclops like put his hand on his shoulder and he like goes, and like he snicks, and that's when we see he has bone claws.
Yeah.
But we don't see who it is that collects him. Maybe you're thinking, oh my god, maybe it's Professor X. And you're like, no. And then at the end, the 05 and Wolverine fight Magneto.
Anyway, whatever. We need to stop rewriting the movie for them. So Raven turns on Magneto, which I love it. Is understandable, but also feels like, oh yeah, dudes definitely wrote this, because we even get the line of like, what
hell hath no fury.
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Shut up, asshole. Shut up.
Eat me. That's awful.
So the more military closes in on Magneto's base, the little dots start vanishing. That's because they're all Madrox.
That's a fun moment.
What I want to know is, what did Magneto offer him to give himself up?
I think he was just happy to do it because he's like, I can get out. He's like a psychopath.
Unless they take his powers.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, what an idiot. Doesn't make any sense.
So Magneto literally moves the Golden Gate Bridge to access Alcatraz, which is a cool scene. But it looks like he's only got like 5 dudes with him, so it's like, did you need to do the whole bridge?
The whole bridge, and apparently it takes him 6 hours because it's like the sun is setting.
Yeah.
And then when the bridge lands, it's like 10 at night.
It's 10 at night. I will say it's not as bad as whatever's going on with the timeline at the end of like No Way Home, where it's like it's night and now it's dawn and now it's dusk and now like what fucking time? When is this happening?
Yeah.
You could even tell like the gaffer didn't even know like what time they're like.
Where is the sun?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Listen, man, just make it so we can make it whatever we want. All right.
Yes, there's no light whatsoever. It's all green.
Yeah, I have never gotten a note that I've said no to. Okay. In the spirit of Spider-Man, the animated series, I've never said no to a note. Just make it whatever time.
Let's just Spider-Man 3 it up, where every single suggestion was taken because we've lost our will to live.
So anyway, all the soldiers come out with their plastic guns, including rocket launchers, with like bullshit. Those are plastic.
I love that. And he tries to do the thing, and he's like, okay, and like they make a sound that says like it's not working. Like if Magneto had an error code, and he's like, oh, they learned. And then like they
my soldiers, and apparently a bulk of these mutants he's picked up, their power is jumping power because they all do big Twilight vampire jumps.
There's a lot of wire work at the third act of this movie where people are just like, Beast is the most egregious, where he's just flinging himself.
Listen, man. Kelsey Grammer was like, all right, what are we doing here with this harness that you got me in? All right, I'm a beast man. Gotcha.
He's like, I'm sealed into this big blue furry coffin for the next 12 hours. Do what you will with my body. All right.
If you ever worked with an actor, they fucking love that shit. Like, oh, I get
They
to
love the
crawling
wire
around like a little animal.
right?
It's acting school all over again.
They love Peter Pan. They just want to
They
fly
love
around.
it, man. They love it. So, there's been a character hanging out with Magneto this whole time who we finally learn is Arclight, and you're like, ooh, what's her power?
Oh, that's
Sound based. Sure, whatever the
okay,
fuck.
fine. Whatever.
She like does a shockwave that takes out the weapons. By the way, Magneto also gets a line like once all his hench people have been cured, it's like, this is why you have cannon fodder. Like, man, you fucking suck, dude.
Yeah, he's like, well, he even tries to make it like that. He's like, well, you know how I like chess in the first 2 movies? Well, you send the pawns first.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you dick. I love how what Calypso goes out and then comes back and she's like, this is where the mutant's being held. He's like, oh, did you kill them
Yeah.
while you were identifying exactly where they were? Did you steal a mutant cure and stab them with it at any point since you know where they are and can be there instantaneously? No?
No? Great.
Why?
Good job, Callisto.
Why?
Well, also, she runs into the problem that every man fucking super speed. I feel like for all the flack Superman gets for like, he's too powerful, we don't know what to do with his powers, super speed trips up every filmmaker 100% of the time. Because we've established early on that Callisto v Storm, that's our pairing, that's who's fighting who, and Storm takes out Callisto by punching her.
Yeah, no,
you've got a woman with literal weather powers and a person that moves faster than naked eye, and Storm just like, aha, pow, sucker punches her.
She does that like she's figured it out. Like she has this like cool ace up her sleeve. She's like, I know, I'll punch her. Yeah. It's like all she had to do was do that like Toad hit like.
Yeah, you could wind her up into the air, something.
She's like, she could have said something like, "You're fast, but are you faster than light?" Krakoom.
It could have. Are you faster than lightning? Much better than the Toad line. You know what happens to
she would have been like, do you know what happens to an asshole who gets struck by lightning?
Same thing that happens to a toad. Bow. Fucking great. Juggernaut goes after Cheer Boy, and there are literal blowing pin sounds as he bowls over guards.
I noticed that as well. And
that is like, the type of movie we're dealing with, everybody.
That's the we've thrown up our hands and given up sound effect.
That is, listen, that's one interpretation. Here's my interpretation, Sal. Brett Ratner being like, fucking hilarious. That's fucking
no,
bowling pin. So oh my god, he was probably. I've gotten this note as an editor.
Yeah,
not specifically this, but you get the intent.
Yeah,
you put bowling pin sounds in there. You don't think that'd be a little on the nose,
right?
What do you mean? What's on the nose? What do you mean on the nose?
Whose nose?
Whose nose? My nose? There's something on my nose? All right, whatever, man.
Never mind. Rush Hour.
Yeah. So. Psylocke, by the way, we learn she's in there. Psylocke, what I would say, especially as a kid, I love Psylocke. I would say one of the more popular X people. They give her camouflage powers, which, if you've read the comics, is not her abilities in the comics.
She has many powers, but one of them is not camouflage.
It's not camouflage. I don't know what happened to the grab bag of names and powers in this movie, but somebody got their wires crossed.
Yes.
So we get this whole chase sequence where Juggernaut is chasing Kitty Pryde through the building. Kind of, it's a good. I like. She's running through walls. He's busting through them.
Totally.
We get the line, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch," which I
don't know about you. It killed in the theater.
Oh, did it?
It killed because. Folks, if you don't remember,
because you wouldn't, and this is my argument why you shouldn't put memes in movies. But say what you're going to say, Sal.
Yeah, don't have characters go, "What are those?"
Yeah,
but because even when that happens, the theater will collectively groan and leave. But okay. So the X-Men animated series got some popularity in the early 2000s by having a weird dub that was circulating YouTube of like a bunch of comedians. I don't even know who was it.
Question mark comedians?
Yeah, comedians who were just dubbing over the movie or the cartoon show and saying just as many crass things as they could. That's a really like white person interpretation of what that was, but there you go. And and one of the like recurring jokes throughout was that one of the characters, when the Juggernaut showed up, is like, "I'm a Juggernaut, bitch." Like that's what he says. And it was a very popular video. Or at least it was a very popular video series. I think there's at least 3 of them.
Yeah.
And
they did one with Dragon Ball Z. I don't know if it's the same people, but Dragon Ball, Super Friends.
Yep.
Like you guys know what we're talking about. But here's the problem. Nobody knows that meme anymore.
Yeah, and also like in today's world, like if you're watching those, like the Juggernaut says some other things in there
Yeah.
that are not as like theater friendly.
Yeah, heaven
And
is great. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't it's not a good look. And that they don't care. When they're making this movie, they were like, well, people know about the Juggernaut? They're like, well, actually it's funny you should say that because there's this YouTube video circulating that's it's pretty funny, and that's it. And that's why it's there. Nobody knows what the hell he said. So now it's funny. It's come back around. I imagine anybody who's seen the movie in the last 10 years is like, does Juggernaut say that? Is that something he says?
Is that his like catchphrase? I guess at the time of the movie, people thought it was. I don't know, man. But here's the more egregious part, Sal. I didn't remember this. So, and help me if I missed something. Because it literally, like, I felt like a brain vessel die when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
We've established that Juggernaut, once we get built up momentum, he can't be stopped. How is that a mutant power? Great question. Don't think about it too hard. And he's running through these walls. And so Kitty gets to Cure Boy. This is actually a really good setup for a scene. Yes. She gets to Cure Boy. And in fact, they could have made a whole sequence of, remember in game where they're doing like keep away with the Infinity Gauntlet? Do that with Cure Boy. But once you get Cure Boy, you don't have your powers. So you're fucked. That's compelling. But we only get that with Kitty. So now she can't phase through stuff. And there's a wall. And this guy that we've established. Oh, I just figured out what happened. Because I was like, he runs at them and he hits his head on the wall and knocks himself out.
Yeah.
And so it's Cure Boy took away his power.
Oh,
and that also made him a glass cannon to the point where, like, even though he has the helmet on, if he just taps the wall, he's knocked the fuck unconscious.
Right. Maybe it's because he brought his momentum with him, and like, so it's like the Juggernaut's momentum, but on a regular person,
Fine, I guess. I was like, wait, we went through all this trouble to establish that once he gets going, he can't be stopped, and he gets taken out by hitting a wall hard. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I guess that kind of works. I guess maybe if it was a better filmmaker, this is maybe me trying to justify me being dumb, but I'd like to say maybe if it was a more competent filmmaker, I would have been able to follow that a little bit better.
Yeah. No, I remember him just hitting the wall, and I didn't remember the fact that it was like, oh yeah, no, it's because she took away his powers or he took away his, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, whatever. Juggernaut hits a wall real hard and then goes away.
And he's gone.
I wrote in my notes, this is dumber than Darwin's death in the First Class. But anyway, maybe it's not now. I don't know. Whatever. We do get a throwdown between Bobby and Pyro, and Bobby goes full ice cube.
Finally. I remember that the audience cheered.
Yeah. Logan distracts Magneto so Beast can yoink him with the cure. Boop, boop.
He doesn't just yoink him. There was a conversation where he's like, okay, and then you hit him with the cure. He's like, hit him with 5.
Yeah. Don't fucking really fucking nuke
really get him with it. Just give it to him.
And again, all credit to Ian McKellen because he totally. This is the worst thing that could happen to Magneto.
Exactly. You could have killed him and he'd be like, yes.
Yeah.
But instead, it's like, we know. You're just an old man.
Yeah. Great. And it's me, Ian McKellen's face is like, oh, man, that's why you hire this motherfucker. He's so good.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. And you might be going like, wait a second. Wasn't Phoenix in this movie?
and then she's like, yeah, hey.
Yeah. Hey, I've just been sitting back here. I've been gifted godlike powers, but I'm just kind of hanging out. And then she like, what prompts this? She flips. Wolverine's like about to talk her down, and then I guess
dudes show up.
Yeah, classic. Dudes show up and try to shoot her. And
yeah.
She flips out, and she just starts disintegrating everything and everybody.
She just starts Thanos snapping everybody before that was cool.
Yes. Do you think that influenced the effect? Do you think that was part of the conversation?
I honestly, I think it's just it was an inexpensive effect back. It was an inexpensive effect back then, and it was still as inexpensive today. And they were like,
just do that. Awesome. Yeah, so she starts nuking everybody. This technically works. Wolverine has to stay to take her out because theoretically, although she's dusting people very quickly, but the concept is his healing factor is able to compensate for the fact that she's dusting him. So as she dusts him, he regenerates. He has to be the one that kills her.
Yeah.
Only works because Hugh Jackman Jackmans it up, really sells the fuck out of it. Because if you don't know, Hugh Jackman has always been too good for these X-Men movies.
No, when he first showed up, nobody knew who the hell he was.
Nobody knew who the hell he was. Like, it's great, but it's one of those. He's like the first example where, like, in a different system, he would have been big enough on his own without Wolverine.
easily. Or he could have been like, I'm taking this character with me, and we're making Wolverine movies now, and it's just like, you're lucky if I show up for a cameo in this movie. Like, you could have had a reality where he's only in the Danger Room scene.
Yeah. Truthfully, he takes out Jean. Rogue returns to the school. She's decided to be cured. Cured Kid is part of the school now, which that's got to be weird.
Yeah, so and his mutant powers are to make you not be a mutant anymore? Like,
yeah.
What?
Wait, is that? I can't remember the Joss Whedon comic. Is it from a mutant in the comic that takes away?
I thought it was.
All right. That is a weird power to have. How does it not take away your own powers? That's whatever. A paradox.
Yeah.
Hank is now the new United Nations ambassador. And Magneto, we in the movie. Magneto's a part playing chess alone.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the chess piece moves a little bit. His power.
Oh no. This is not the Prestige. It moves. Which, by the way, means that if you take 5 cures, it's not enough. Yep. So everyone who was cured is back to being a mutant.
You forget Sal.
Oh,
Magneto's a class 5. So maybe it's the you forgot
5.
The class system we established, the hard and fast scientific gauge of, man, we just love to rate. It's like fucking mints and shit. We just like to gauge. There's a hierarchy.
Numbers.
We really like. We're okay investing in a hierarchy based purely on the concept that maybe we'll be higher up.
Right. We don't know.
We're okay with billionaires exist because maybe in some cosmic lottery that could have been us, and we wouldn't want to not have our money. So I guess they get to have it.
Yeah. The worst is like people in their 70s and 80s who are not billionaires, who are still defending them. And I'm like, your time is up.
Yeah.
You'll never be a billionaire.
It'll never happen. It'll never happen.
Since you know now that it'll never happen, why not just knock it off?
Man, I just don't like it. Don't like it. Okay. All right. So now we're in our segment. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Is this our first Marvel post-credit scene, Sal?
It is.
It's at least one of the first, if not the first.
I don't think there's any post-credit scene in X-Men 1 and 2. I don't think there's one in Spider-Man 1 or 2. I don't think there's one in Blade. So yeah, maybe it might be
it. I think this might be it. I remember the first post-credit scene I saw was actually in Pirates of the Caribbean.
What was it?
It was the monkey gets the gold and he becomes the ghost.
I do remember that.
It was back in the day when we used to do jokes for post credits.
It was just a fun little like, oh, thanks a lot for watching the rest of the movie, folks.
Yeah. And I do think there's merit in using it as sequel bait. The problem, I think, the most egregious example that comes to mind is Spider-Man: Far From Home. Yeah. Where like a crucial key plot, like one of the only 2 things that happens in the movie that actually moves the character forward happens in a post-credit scene.
That's very
egregious. All right, now we get in our segment, New Mutants. We talk about the new additions to this movie, and God, there's a lot, and whether we think how we think they handled these characters. So, first up, of course, we talked a little bit. Elliot Page is Kitty Pryde. Returns in Days of Future Past as well.
Yes, that's right, and good choice. Like, I think they did a great job. But also like it was kind of obvious because Elliot Page was a thing back then, was becoming a rising star. So it was.
I don't know where Juno went. This is either right before Juno or right after.
I think it's got to be right on the line where they're like, Juno's a big thing. Get the Juno person and put them in the movie. And it's funny because Anna Paquin was that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, okay, get out.
Yeah. 2007. So this is actually 1 year before Juno. But I know Elliot Page was everything before Juno. And that was part of the hype of Juno was Elliot Page is in it.
Yeah.
I do not know. I've not watched Juno since I saw it in theaters. I don't know. I remember liking it then. I don't know how it's held up. We'll have to.
I don't know.
Okay. So and we could go through all these, but honestly, we're already running a little long. So, and they don't factor in a lot in the movie. So here's the other big additions. We get Angel, Juggernaut, Calypso, on paper, Calypso, and Psylocke, and Multiple Man, and Cure Boy.
Yes.
So just in a general concept. How do we? Too many mutants.
Yeah,
Is
too
it
many
okay?
mutants. Well, you need all
Would
the
it have been
mutants.
enough if they actually got the powers right and the looks right? Would that have been enough for
That
some
would have
of
been
them?
really cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
it wouldn't have mattered who played them if so long as it was just the costume and powers.
yeah,
But like the takeaways are Beast,
yes.
characters who
Oh yeah,
have the powers and the acting right.
yeah.
So, Kitty Pryde, Beast, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Angel, but even
Angel.
Angel doesn't. You mentioned Angel a bunch of times in the movie, but like they don't do anything in the
No,
movie.
like it's like a line maybe.
They
He
catch
shows up
someone.
yeah, and shows up at the school and is like, "Hey, I'm here now."
Oh, are they? Because I remember him
Cool.
flying around Magneto at the end of the movie.
Yeah, no, he shows up at the school. He shows up. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know that does he factor in the fight. I don't think so.
No, he
Ooh.
doesn't. He catches somebody at the in the fight. His dad.
That's right. Oh yeah. That's right. He saves his dad. No, his costume. If you look at the poster here, his costume is
pants.
shirtless. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think definitely the winners here are Kitty Pryde and Beast. I think they get enough screen time.
Yep.
And I think the cameos would have worked better if there had been any understanding of these characters and their powers and enough of their personality where they get a line where like, hey, it's him.
Yeah, like we actually did that with Colossus. When Colossus is up in X2 and you're like, whoa, and then they go away. And you're like,
yeah. So the next section is X Factor. We talk a little bit about behind the scenes. We've talked a little bit about Bryan Singer decided he was like, I don't really have a feeling on X3. But I do have a clear vision for Superman. So I'm going to go to Superman Returns and thereby tanked 2 franchises at once.
Boom! I like Superman Returns a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, not me. Sal, I'm going to run through before we landed on Brett Ratner because you might be surprised to learn Brett Ratner was not their first choice.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have figured it was their first choice. That's funny. Oh man. Who else did they
so I'm going to run through some of the options that were floated around to see what you think. Apparently there was a version of the script originally where Jean gets overwhelmed with the powers, kills herself, and then becomes like a star child in 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I would have been more interesting than what we got.
Yeah, I would have taken that over her just dying and
Yeah.
Wolverine being like, I love you, and her appropriately not reacting to that because we've never been anything.
Yeah, I was in a committed relationship for the entirety of the time I knew you, man.
Yeah, completely.
Okay, so Hugh Jackman's contract had approval for director, and that will surprise you to learn. However, I do think running through the list, it's like he must have been tired by like fuck whoever because they decided, and they do this all the time now. They announced a release date before they even had a director.
Yeah.
So they were under the gun.
Well, that sounds like today.
Yes. So his first choice, and Hugh Jackman really petitioned hard for this, and I get it because I do like this director, Darren Aronofsky. Because he worked with the Fountain.
No way would they have made that movie. There's no way that movie would have been made.
Yeah. Well, and again, he false started twice. This movie and the Wolverine 2 was supposed to be Darren Aronofsky.
And your Batman Year One.
And Batman Year One. And I will knock to him. I've heard the rumors about what that was supposed to be, and it's like glad that didn't pan out.
Me too.
I like Darren Aronofsky. Listen, I'll even defend stuff like Mother and Noah. I like Darren Aronofsky as a director. Heard what he was going to do with Batman. I'm like, no, thank you.
Agreed.
Joss Whedon was in the talks, but he was too busy working on Wonder Woman.
Serenity. Wonder Woman. Yeah,
which is great that didn't work out. Alex Proyas was in the talks, but he apparently had a grudge with Thomas Rothman, who was a 20th Century Fox producer over stuff over iRobot.
That'll happen.
Proyas did Dark World too, right? Is that the same guy? Am I remember the same guy?
Was he brought in after replacing the other director in Dark World?
Hold on. Dark City, excuse me.
Dark City.
Dark City.
What a cool movie that would have been.
Dark City is fucking great. And I like iRobot too. He also did The Crow. He also did Knowing, but we don't need to talk about that.
But good Crow though.
The Crow, Dark City, iRobot. That's a solid run.
Yeah.
Okay.
iRobot is a little embarrassing, but still.
I like iRobot, man. I like iRobot. All right.
I think it's better than it's better than this.
Zack Snyder.
Wow.
But he was busy working on 300.
Well, good choice for him.
Yeah, good choice. Definitely good choice for him. And I can't help. Initially, I was like, you know what? Maybe X-Men would have been good fit. I'm like, no, man, because here's what would have happened. It would have been like, wait, is Magneto the hero? Is the fascist the hero of this movie? Why does this movie seem to agree with Magneto about everything?
Yeah. I the other thing is like, yeah, I don't know how he would have done making the third movie. You know, it would have been like, it would have felt really disjointed. Like this movie
Oh yeah,
feels like
he
just
has such a distinct tone. Like
exactly
it,
like
love it or hate it. Like he does
right.
his own thing.
Same with the Crow in Dark City. Like it would have been like, what the crap happened to
Yeah.
X-Men? Like you might as well just reboot it at this point.
Hold on. Guillermo del Toro. They
That
reached
would
out
have
to
been
him.
the most not seamless, but it would have been the best choice.
But he was busy doing Pan's Labyrinth. Good choice for him.
Good choice for him.
Good choice for him.
Everybody who didn't do this movie made the right decision.
Made the right decision. And Matthew Vaughn was working on it and literally like previs stuff. And he had to drop out for family reasons. Is the reason that was given. And then we landed on it. And that's why I think at this point they're like,
who cares?
They went to Hugh Jackman. They're like, Brett Ratner's like, dude, you've already announced. I guess fine. I mean,
movie's coming out. Like we haven't shot one thing yet. Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. And if you're wondering the disjointed nature of it all, it's the studio didn't want to do Dark Phoenix. They're like, that's too dark for general audiences. They're not gonna like that. And so the studio was big on the Cure storyline. The writers were like, but we fucking we did a setup for Phoenix in the last movie.
What the movie is. Yeah.
And so it's just one of those, and it's just nobody in charge had a clear vision of it. So it's everybody just threw their ideas in.
Yep.
And here it is. That's the movie. And so I wish I had a more exciting, dramatic story to tell you, but it was just nobody. It was product. Nobody gave a shit. Not I want to say nobody gave a shit. It's that nobody had a vision for it.
Exactly. Nobody wanted to make the movie. Everyone just made the movie.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. So and I think truthfully, kids at home, if you're watching a super movie, you're like when you're watching something like Spider-Verse, you're like, why does this feel so much better?
Right.
Other ones, it's because people with a vision had a vision and they executed that vision.
Absolutely.
And everybody was able to get on the same page. Somebody, Miller and Lord wrote the script. And it was like, here's what we're doing. And like the directors got excited about it.
Exactly. Like everyone.
And everybody's excitement fed into the thing to make the thing.
Yeah, completely. No, everybody was like, oh my God, I can't wait to make this movie. As opposed to X-Men 3, where it's like, well, we announced this movie is going to be made.
Yeah.
So
here we go. Off to the races.
Yeah.
Now we get to our segment, New X-Men, which is we wonder what, if any, aspects of this should or could be integrated into the MCU. So here's the big thing. Not you think the MCU is not going to touch any of this?
I mean, like the Phoenix. Again, I would imagine the Phoenix would show up in a cosmic movie of some kind, but I don't see it happening anytime soon.
I'm worried, and I've said this on other shows. I'm worried that Marvel will be like, well, we've got 2 bad Phoenix movies, so let's never do it. Not like let's do it right. Let's never do it again.
Yeah,
and
I can see them being
that's the wrong takeaway, guys.
I agree. I don't know what their thinking is on that front, but I do fear that they are going to be like gun shy about it, which I would be too. I'd be like, I mean, like the last thing you want to do is be like, let me show you how it's done, and then
I think
screw it up.
I think what you do is like you build to it, because the thing you could do is, I have to imagine, okay, Phase Saga 1 was Infinity Saga, now we're in Multiverse Saga, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically, we haven't gotten like word 1 on, other than Deadpool, on like X-Men shit in this saga. So maybe after Secret Wars, the next big thing is Avengers versus X-Men, right?
Yeah.
And the Phoenix, I don't necessarily like how the Phoenix was incorporated in the story in the comics, but it is there.
Yeah.
And you could build towards like the Phoenix is a Thanos level, Galactus level threat. Yes. Like that's what we're building towards. And so that gives you runway.
Yeah.
We've got like 3 phases to build, to set up the X-Men, to set up that world, to set up the relationship with the other Marvel characters.
Totally.
And we know it's climaxing into something where Phoenix fights Galactus. I don't know, something that doesn't necessarily need, because at that point you have enough distance and it could be different enough
from
what we've done in the past to justify it.
Yeah. Yeah, I want X-Men in its own phases. Like, I want X-Men to be like ground level, space level, like back to Earth kind of level, where it's like, the X-Men fight, localized villains like Magneto and like, and then they go to space because like Lilandra shows up. She's like, "You need to help me," and they're like, do we go into space?" And then they do. We do Phoenix, and then we come back. And it's like, we're changed, like, and now it's like, maybe even that one's like, we're ready to be heroes. Like, we're ready to be out in the public and stuff. But like,
I actually think that's a really compelling, because that's the thing with the X-Men franchise is, unlike what Sony's trying to do with Spider-Man, X-Men is big enough to be its own thing. Like, you could like spin-offs of characters like Wolverine and Storm, that fucking, it makes sense. Not unlike Kraven.
Totally.
And so now that Marvel's in charge of it, like, treating like that, or you could even do something like, okay, X-Men Phase 1, like you said, is more grounded. Because something I like about this, I like about the Cure aspect of it, it is more grounded, and it's also leans into the more sci-fi aspect of X-Men.
Absolutely.
In like the Star Trek sense, where it's like, hey, here's a concept.
Yeah.
What are the moral implications? What are the political implications? What are the implications? I like that shit. That's not the type of movies we make anymore, but I like it.
No, yeah.
So you could fit that into maybe an X-Men show or whatever. But I like that, like, ground level. Then we introduce the Brood and the Phoenix space stuff. And then we could start seeding, come back. Like, we have our own nation now. And now it's a version of what Jonathan Hickman's been doing. And maybe loop in some, what was the continent Magneto?
Utopia? Genosha.
Genosha. Like some of that, because it doesn't need to be as all-encompassing as the current Krakoa era is.
Yeah.
And then maybe that provides conflict with the Avengers of like, now we're on our nation. And I think the reason I like that is, again, it's a good sci-fi concept of like, do we let them? In fact, in some ways, it might be my critique of, or the reason I have trouble connecting with the current run is almost feels more like a sci-fi story Jonathan Hickman came up with that he grafted the X-Men onto. But I do think you're right that they and this is, we go back to the Kevin Feige conversation where it's like, you need to delegate, man. You need, the X-Men needs its own Kevin Feige. Like, they can answer to you, but they need their own editor. They need their own guy that's keeping an eye on, because X-Men should have movies, shows that all connect, and then you can able to do more serialized stuff, introduce more characters.
I don't see
any of the Kitty, Beast, Angel, any of them you want to see MCU tackle in there?
Oh, I'd love to see MCU versions of all of them. But I don't think any of them are coming back. Like, I think Kelsey Grammer's time is over. I think,
I don't
Nicholas Hoult is done.
Yeah. I don't think any of those actors need to come back.
No, but Beast is like a done deal. Like, that Beast is so obvious, and Beast should be an Avenger, set it up where it's like Beast, maybe the first movie he's like an X-Man, and then he leaves, and then he joins the Avengers, and it's kind of like, oh, like, look at this, a little bit of spillover, and and you mix it up a little bit, but all of them, Angel definitely should be on that team.
Aren't him and Wonder Man buddies? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah, they are buddies. Yeah,
we're getting a Wonder Man show.
We're getting a Wonder Man show.
Let's do it. Everybody.
Put him on the show. Just make it Hank McCoy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. All right. So now, last thing, Generation X, we rank the movies. Sal.
Yeah.
3 movies deep.
Right? 3, 1, 2.
1, 2, X-Men's 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. Best is 2, second best is 1, third best is 3.
Easy peasy. This
2, 1, 3.
This is gonna get a little more complicated as we go on. I'll be interested teeing up next month. We'll be doing X-Men Origins Wolverine. I thought, this is my prediction, I thought going into this it was going to be difficult, like, what's worse, Last Stand or X-Men Origins? Having rewatched Last Stand, it's like, well, it's got to be Origins, right? Because parts of this movie do work.
Yes.
And I don't remember that being the case with X-Men Origins Wolverine.
I think you're 100% correct. I think we're predicting it, but we're on the same page.
We'll see. But I will say, I was actually surprised about how much, because I remember this kind of being a disaster, and it's not. I think it's just a letdown. It's just it was
a major letdown. I remember vividly seeing it in theaters, and at the end, the people I went with were like, "Oh, it was kind of cool. What'd you think?" And I was like, "I thought it was really, really terrible."
Yeah.
and they were like really mad at me for
Yeah.
being like that down on it, and I'm sure the comments are too, but like I don't care. I didn't care 20 years ago, and I don't care now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just kind of like it was not good.
Yeah.
It was a very sloppily made movie.
Yeah.
It was an incredibly disappointing sequel. So what does it have? You
Yeah.
know? And so at the end, it was like the same thing with Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. I was like, that sucked.
But think about this. Have you watched Rise of the Machines since you that's
I
wait,
s-
that's the wait, is that
that's
the one that takes place in the time Christian Bale?
no,
No? Oh,
that's
3.
Salvation. No, 3 is the one
Salvation.
with the Terminatrix and
Gotcha.
Claire Danes.
I was thinking of Salvation, and I had this really depressing thought. It's like,
That's the
bet
best
if
one
I bet
out
if I
of
go I bet if I go back and watch Salvation, it's better than I remember it being. And
it
again,
is.
that is not fuck, that's so depressing.
No, it is absolutely out of if you remove Terminator 1 and 2,
Yeah.
Salvation is the best one after that. And
Ugh.
I Dark Fate was well made, but it's also like you need to take everything that you like about Terminator and murder it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no.
It's just, but I think this goes back to what we're talking about here is also kind of my argument. If you guys hear me talk about the Flash, like I'm really down on it, but truthfully, beyond like my issues with Ezra Miller and stuff like that, partly what I'm articulating, even though there are things that I not only think are not good movies, I think are problematic in a larger sense.
Yeah.
It's mostly my disappointment. We've been trying to
Yes.
get a Flash movie for over a decade, and this is what we got.
Right.
Because it's so fine. It's so like unremarkable.
It's not even safe. Well, somebody, I don't remember who, but somebody called it like a studio note come to life. Like,
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we're articulating with this
X-Men
movie,
3.
X-Men 3, and it's just again, you need somebody that for something to really catch fire, somebody needs to give a shit, and somebody needs to have a vision. Somebody needs to have a vision for it. And I think what worked with the MCU is even for the movies that didn't work, like Dark World, there was a vision for the enterprise, for the whole thing, and that made even the weaker elements like that work within the larger construct. So, and I'm hoping we're getting to a stage that, like, obviously Sal and I love this shit. We grew up reading the comics. Like I listen to a lot of, I'm a film guy, so I listen to a lot of film podcasts where they like bag on superhero movies. That's not me.
No,
that's not me. But I wouldn't mind if we got to space like just a couple MCU movies a year or something, and you just somebody, and then maybe that's the gift of James Gunn, because like however you feel about James Gunn, like I feel like he gives a shit. And that's maybe all we need. That's all
we need. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I don't want to see the superhero movie bubble explode, nor do I want, like, it was never my enthusiasm about superhero movies.
Yeah.
Right. When they got good was never, oh man, and someday they can make 10 of them a year.
Yeah.
Like,
this will eat up every other genre of movie. There will be nothing else but these.
Yeah, no, like my enthusiasm was, oh my God, there'll be 1 or 2 a year and they will be fun to see.
Yes.
That's all I asked for.
Yeah. So anyway, those are our thoughts on Last Stand. I cannot wait to get to because now
it's spin-off territory.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's the Wild West here. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. It's unpredictable at this point.
Yeah.
Sal, where can the kids find you?
Oh, come on by youtube.com/comic pop or Comic Pop Returns. We make videos almost on the daily about comic books and comic book culture. Check us out.
Please, there will be links in the description if you haven't seen them already. You can find me at DJ Talks Trash. You can follow the show everywhere that matters at Only Stupid Answers. But on Twitter, you'll need to yank the vowels out of stupid. And some of y'all, you need to tell me where we're going. Is it Blue Sky? What are we doing? Where are we going? Because Twitter, like, God forbid I put a GIF on a tweet, because crapshoot, coin flip whether it'll post or not.
Yeah,
I've had to delete the app on my phone like 3 times just because it decided I will never post this post, but I'll never let you do anything else.
Yeah.
So anyway, let us know what app you're going to. Also, if you want to hear Sal and I talk about this shit more, Spider-Verse on patreon.com/onlystupid-answers. Next time, Spectacular Spider-Man, everybody. Get excited for that. We will see you then. Bye, everybody.